And I'm waiting for Mr. Crouse to hop in, so I'm going to pause it. All right, I am so excited and so honored to have my first podcast guest ever in the history of the world come back for a 2.0 version, my hero, Mr. Crouse. Thank you so much for taking the time today.
Thank you for having me, Erin.
Absolutely. For those that don't know the background, I don't know how they don't know if they've been following my content because I've posted about you so many times, so many stories. But for those that maybe are listening for the first time or watching the YouTube channel of the Move Happy Movement vlog, we connected actually when I was 9 years old. You were doing this 35 family garage sale / yard sale fundraiser event, and my oldest brother was in the music company, and that was my first introduction to you. And we have since grown a friendship and relationship mentorship for almost 30 years. So I'm super blessed to be able to learn from you and whatnot. And I knew that people needed to hear from you, follow-up session, just with everything going on in the world. So thank you very much.
I love to share. Hey, the deal about being 78 years old is I have a lot of, by the way, do you know what the old lady said?
What?
There's no substitute for experience.
That's right.
That's what she said. So there you go.
I love it. I love it. Is that the old lady is Norma Jean or someone?
No, not that old lady. No.
Awesome. So I feel, and I believe a lot of people would agree with this, that when we hear from someone that has created a legacy business brand or a legacy transforming children's lives, that we want to know a little bit about their upbringing, because maybe there's some golden nuggets that they can glean from your foundational experiences that they can maybe incorporate in their families or their businesses or their music programs. So with that in mind, can you tell us what Mr. C was like as a little boy?
I love to run and jump.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up doing track. So there you go.
Nice.
I love to sing. My mother said that when I was little, my high chair, I used to rock back and forth in the high chair and sing.
Oh.
So one of those things I actually sang before I talked. My dad used to sing when we were in the car. My dad and I used to sing Michigan songs together. I just sang all the time. And I think the thing that everybody needs to learn from that is that you need to do what you love.
Yeah.
If you do what you enjoy, you won't work a day in your life. And that's really true. Yeah. I'm always reminded of the story about the guy who went into a restaurant and sat down. There's a family right next to him. And the little kid didn't want to eat his peas. So the father said, "Eat your peas." He says, "I don't want to eat your peas." "Eat your peas." "I don't want to eat your peas." And then he said, "I spent my whole life doing what I did not want to do. Now you eat your peas." And I'm thinking, hey,
you're teaching him the same thing.
What a waste. Just like the people who come in and say, "Oh, it's Monday." I say, "Thank God it's Monday."
Yeah.
I got to have another day to go. But I think the lesson is that do what you love to do, and don't worry about the money. If you do what you love to do, the money will come.
Yes, I love that.
So as a little kid, I used to sing all the time. 7 years old, I was in the church choir. And I was a soloist, soprano soloist, and I was so good that they actually farmed me out to some more churches to sing, and I made a little money. So really? I was a professional singer at 7 years old.
Oh, that is so neat.
Huh? Then my voice changed. Nobody wanted to hear me anymore after that.
Oh no, hormones, man. That's neat though. So you were 7. And you were performing, then your voice changed, I'm guessing around, 12 to 14 or so. So was that junior high, middle school age? So did you stop?
I was early. I was singing in a professional choir when I was in the 7th grade.
Okay.
I think it was. Yeah. So, but the other thing I think is interesting, I was just thinking about your questions. 6th grade, the band guy came down from the junior high. And he had everybody come into a room and he tested them for things. And he said, after testing me, he said, "Boy, you really have good rhythm." He said, "You'd be a great drummer." And I said, "No, I'm going to be a great singer." He said, and he tried to talk me out of it. He worked very hard. And I said, "Nope, I'm going to be a singer." And I stuck to it. Then I got to junior high and I had Dorothy Acevedo as my as my music teacher. She was wonderful. I lived for those classes when I could be with her. And again, that's another one of these clues. Duh, I should be in music.
Yeah, I love that.
Another clue. And then junior high, I had another wonderful director, her husband. And I was in the choir. And get this, when I was in junior high, we joined the high school choir and we did the Messiah, the whole Messiah.
Wow.
When I was in junior high. And we had soloists come from Michigan State University next door to come over and be the soloist. The orchestra was a professional orchestra from the place. Here I am in the 7th grade, 8th grade, whichever one it was. Yeah. I sang the whole Messiah.
I sang that at PLU. That's a very challenging music program. That was the top choir at the university performed that. You got to do it in 7th grade. Wow, that's incredible. That reminds me of the festival in Bethel School District. Did you start that? Did you plant that seed?
No.
That sounds very similar to what
I think I've nudged it in a few directions now and then, but no, I didn't.
You're humble. So let's talk high school. Were you singing?
High school, the bad news was that the music, well, I went to a boys' school, boys' private boarding school. So the choir was a glee club, and the glee club director just happened to be the organist at the church.
Okay.
So that wasn't too exciting, but the neat deal was that we got to do operettas. So the girls' school across the lake would come over and we'd sing together, and I was Pooh-Bah in the Mikado. I was Billy in Oklahoma.
Oh, wow.
We also did anyway, we did an operetta every year, and I was a soloist in all the operettas.
Wow.
Here we go again.
Yeah.
Duh. There's another duh.
And you got to hang with girls.
I really love that. The other thing was that I picked up the guitar when I was a freshman, started playing guitar and singing. And I got to the point where I would go to coffee houses and perform and make money.
That's neat.
Especially after I graduated, there was a friend of mine in school that ran a coffee house type of thing. So he would hire me about once a month to go and sing gigs with him. It was a lot of fun.
Cool. That's neat. I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Oh yeah.
See, I always learn something from you. All right. So then high school transition to college. Where did you go for your undergrad?
Okay. Well, college, my brother Ed was in the glee club at the University of Michigan.
Okay.
And I remember going to his concerts and just being blown away. I loved the music. I loved the auditorium. It's a 4,000 seat auditorium.
Wow.
Hill Auditorium at the University of Michigan is just an incredible building. And so I looked at all that and I said, I want to do that.
Yeah.
I really wanted to do that badly. But I also ran track when I was in high school.
That's right.
I have 3 state championships from Michigan.
Wow.
And when I got to Michigan, I wanted badly to run. I thought I really need to get a college letter. And it was a pretty bad program. My high school program was much better. So, and I wouldn't have had time to do the glee club and that. So I got to be in the glee club, and we went around the world once. Actually went around the world.
What?
I was a featured soloist with the glee club. So Russia, Hong Kong, Taj Mahal, all the European capitals, the whole thing. And I was a soloist in all those places.
Wow. You were hooked.
So I got to go to Europe once. We went to Washington, D.C. We sang in the National Cathedral.
Wow.
We were on TV a couple of times. We did not Ed Sullivan. We did a couple of gigs there that I got to sing in. Wonderful background. Also in the choir at Michigan, I got to sing some of the really big choral works that very few people get to do. Wow. The Bach Magnificat, nobody does. I got to do that. We just sang this all things with really huge orchestras, and I got to be a part of all that. And there are some things that we performed at Michigan that I never performed again. Nobody out here on the West Coast did anything that huge.
Yeah.
So I was really fortunate to
Yeah.
have that background. I also sang in an octet that went perform different places, and that was kind of my idea for the music company later on. Kind of came from that, because I used to arrange popular songs for the group to sing, and I loved pop music, and I loved the intellectual choral music. So I loved the whole thing. So when I got to high school, it made sense. My gig that I made money at was my choir. My love was the music company, where I got to sing all the pop stuff that I had loved all my life.
That is
and
so
dance. Wow. I always thought dance was kind of foolish until we went down to that camp in California. And wow, that just opened my eyes, this thing that how movement goes with singing.
Yes, it definitely does.
One of the things they said was, even if you're standing on a riser, you're still dancing.
Yeah.
So I was
wow. Yeah,
I had a wonderful experience in college.
Yeah, that's so neat. For those that are maybe arrangers in music, or they want to be arrangers, what was it like to arrange music pre like all the cool tech stuff that I'm sure there's programs that make it super simple now? What was it like for you to arrange music back then?
Well, I had a pencil and a score to write on. With me, I would find something that just blew me away, a piece of music that I had to perform, and I couldn't find any sheet music for it. So I sat down and wrote it up myself. I learned how to pick the parts out when this was going on. I learned how to make chords work together. I learned about voice leading. I learned so many things by doing that. And it's really funny to look back. If you look at my first thing, I think my treble clef was backwards, and all my sharps and flats were in the wrong order. But I did it because I was just so excited about it. Another little funny story about that. I taught guitar for a number of years in high school at Lakes High School. And I found that the people that had to go to take lessons never kept going with the guitar. People that were really excited about it and did it all on their own were the ones that stuck to it. So that's that old deal about, find what you love and then just immerse yourself in it and don't worry about anything else. And that's the way you should live your life.
I love that. Yeah. And that's interesting, going back to handwriting your scoring of your arrangement.
Yes.
I actually did that in graduate school because I didn't have any music degrees, and I tried to apply to get into a master's program for music, but they said not without a bachelor's program. But the FAFSA and all the student loan regulations in our country wouldn't allow me to have the same degree.
Remember what happens when you run into a wall?
Yeah, you go around it.
You find a way around it.
I was lucky. I had my advisors from Australia, and she asked me this question: what would you enjoy spending a year creating? Because I told her I wanted to do a project, and I said something with music, and she was like, okay, but this is an exercise psychology master's. And I was like, yeah, well, if I can add dance and then do the music. And so I made it a lot bigger than it had to be, but it ended up being, no educational background other than my experiences with you for 3 years and going to that jazz camp you were talking about earlier. For those that don't know what we're talking about, the College of the Siskiyous with Grammy award winning composers, Roger Emerson, Kirby Shaw, and then Disney choreographer John Jacobson, who's now president of some music curriculum organization. I forget the name of it now. But that was my only
Hop Drop,
professional
isn't it called? Or Hop Till You Drop?
That's I think that's what it's called. I was in choir in college, but I didn't have any music degrees. And then I created this project, 5 songs and 5 dances. It was supposed to be for 5th grade curriculum. The feedback was that it was actually dance level middle school and music high school level. And then I was invited to a regional conference to present I was the only person for dance to be invited to a regional conference for multi-state. Yeah, I didn't get to go because they wanted me to pay for everything. But hey, that told me that you did you did an incredible foundation for me that helped me to believe that I could do something without actually having the professional expertise. So I did find that way to walk around that
I think
hard
part
wall.
of that too was my high school experience in music was really so limited. I wanted to give my high school students, just a professional background in music, and
Yeah.
if I found the 16 or the 20 kids that were really talented and I really felt should go on,
Yeah.
I gave them all of myself.
Yeah.
All the things that I loved, all the things that I had learned over the years, all the little sayings like we are what we repeatedly do.
Yep. Mhm.
Excellence then isn't not an act, but a habit,
Yep.
from Aristotle.
Yeah.
Um, and I just passed all those things that I'd learned all throughout my life to kids, and I
Yep.
really enjoyed that. So many of them will come back and spout back to me some things that I taught them along the way, which I think is really a scream. But hey, if it stuck with them, good
Yeah.
deal. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think you give good, you get good. And so those of us that were blessed to be a part of your, whether they were just in the choir or got to be, exclusive with you after school for an hour every day and the whole month of August and the whole week down at the jazz camp in the summers, you know, we want to give you honor back because we've seen how most people in everyday life just do the bare minimum. I think you said it was an 80-10-10 rule, and the 80% are followers. You're got to be a top 10%. You get to choose every single day if you're going to be top 10 or always negative in the bottom. Make your choice. So
Top 10 positive,
that's right.
bottom 10 negative, middle of the people just sort of go along with whatever's going along. Be a
Yeah.
top 10er.
Yep.
Top 10%, or why not?
Absolutely. Okay. So let's see here. You talked a little bit about the foundation of starting the music company. Do you remember the year? What year you started the first program?
80,
80?
87.
86.
It's probably the 87,
Okay.
87 school year.
Okay. So I was 1 year old when you started it.
And the reason I started was because, again, I had all that music in me, and in college we'd sung all those songs, and I'd arranged them all, and then, gee, here I have a chance to perform that myself. I can do anything I want to do. So hey, let's get a little group of kids together. Started out with a bunch of girls because I didn't have enough guys to perform. And we did that for a while. And then there were some boys that came up and said, hey, I want to be part of that. Cool. So then it just started expanding. And 1996 was the first year I had a choir that went anywhere and won any awards.
Really?
Really?
I think that was my oldest brother's.
That was the first time anybody won anything at the district level. So that was really, it was just, and it was all in me. I just wanted to let it out, and I just wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I loved it.
Every
day until the last year. The last year I was all ready to go to school, and I walked in the door and my stomach went, 2013, 2014, I'm out of here.
Yeah. You told us too. You were like, I go to a job that I love every day, and the day that I don't love it will be the day that I'm done.
And that's the day I was done. That's absolutely right.
But you kept doing things. You kept, being a adjudicator, and I'm sure you coached other people. You helped me create my second therapy program that was billable to the state of Washington without it being empirically based, which was against the rules. But hey, you helped me to believe I could do things
run into that wall, walk around.
For those that might not enjoy their day job, but they're in the process of, this is just kind of impromptu just from what we talked about, they're in the process of wanting to create other pathways to get out of their job or to get out of boring meetings that they don't want to go to. What are some tips that you could share on how to get out of those adult meetings that you might not be a part of while still having your organization that you work for allow you to do that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I was always sort of a rebel. It really bothered me to look at something that didn't work or something that could be done a lot better. And it just really bothered me. I remember in the early years of singing of the choir at Spanaway Lake, they didn't have a district organizer, different district person that was in charge of music.
Mm-hmm.
And so we started bugging the administration about that. And at that time, their big idea was to come, they put big pieces of paper all over the wall, and you're supposed to take a sticker and go put a sticker on things. And so they started doing that. And I stood up and I said, no, we're not going to do that. The only thing we need a district music coordinator. I don't care who it was, but somebody who can coordinate it and make this happen.
Yeah.
And so they stopped doing all the things, and they actually sat down. We started talking about things that mattered. Hello. So we got this person that started organizing things, and then eventually we got to the point I started a district choral festival, so all the schools could get together and sing some songs.
Wow, you started that.
Just kind of grew into other things. But yeah, I was maybe not so smart, but I was always a rebel. If things weren't working well, I'd sit down with whoever it was. I remember one time my favorite one was when we were taking, schools had to take those tests. Remember when testing was a big deal?
Yeah.
So it was a 4 days worth of tests and then nothing on Friday. Well, the principal at the time wanted to do well on all that. He wanted to look good on. So he said, your sophomores, the ones that took the test that were important, that are in your ensembles, can't go to the state contest. I said, what? No, they have to stay here. So what I did was I called every parent of every sophomore, and I told them what the principal had done. I didn't tell them to do anything. I just said,
giving them information.
The principal has said that the sophomores cannot go to the state contest.
Yeah.
Well, eventually, letters started going to the superintendent.
Yes.
And pretty soon the superintendent called the principal and said, no, you can't do that. He said, if the kids show up every day for those tests, and we were going to go on Friday, if you got all those tests done, they should go on Friday. So he called me into his office and he says, I've never been so angry in all my life. And I just sat there. I got what I wanted. I didn't care. So the sophomores got to go, and the sophomore girls won the state championship that year. That's wow. Awesome. And you know what the girls did? When we got back on Monday morning, they all ran into his office, every one of them with the trophy right down in the middle of his desk. And they were just excited, so excited about it, So the morning announcements, the principal got on and he said, I want to congratulate the women's ensemble, blah, 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 blah.
Thank goodness.
Yes.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. If you run into a wall, find a way around it.
That's right. I love that. Oh, that's such an awesome story. I remember you also giving us tips for the future while I was, a high school student. I think I was a junior when you said this to us. I forget how the conversation started, but somebody said, oh, it's so annoying, like orchestrating or organizing people or students. Like, I think it was like maybe the president was talking about something in another class. And you said, you think it's hard organizing high school students? Think about organizing adults. Everybody's complaining in our meetings. And guess what? I don't go to any of the meetings because I have an hour with you guys after school every day. And I was like, yeah.
And the other part of that too was there was a lunchroom for the teachers. And when you went into the teachers, that's what happened. They would all just
they hated
complain about everything. So I just didn't go. I stayed in my room. All the kids were in the room eating lunch.
Yeah.
It was wonderful because teenagers, everybody complains about teenagers, but teenagers are very positive people. They laugh a lot.
Yep.
They have fun. They have a lot of friends.
Yep.
And it's just wonderful to spend their lives rather than a bunch of adults who are just, oh, this is wrong and this is wrong, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, I always loved that you left the choir door open during the lunchtime.
Sure. I wanted all you kids to come in. It was fun.
Yeah, we could practice if we wanted to. Some of us played cards at the table. You had gotten a couch donated, so it was like a family space. Like, yeah, it was really neat.
It also helped make the choir a family place.
Exactly.
Not as dumb as I look.
And for those listening to the podcast, definitely need to hop onto YouTube so you can see the man, the legend. So All right, here we go. What are some of your most challenging memories and exciting experiences around music directing?
Well, I've told you the bad ones.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my most exciting thing, I think, was the first time that women's ensemble won the state contest.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever seen the movie about the 1980 hockey team that beat the Russians. It's called Miracle.
Yep.
When it was all over, when the Americans college kids had beaten the Russians.
Mm-hmm.
Remember the coach went out into the back of the place where nobody else was,
Mm-hmm.
and he just stood against the wall and just, he was so excited that everything that he'd done and all the brick walls that had put up, that he got around, and he had won. And that's the way I felt. The girls all around me, when they announced that Spanish Lake High School was the first place, they leaped out of their seats and ran up to get their trophy and came back. And I was so happy. Yeah. That was one. Another one was really a neat deal too, is there was a school that had like 4,000 students. It was huge. They had 2 choir directors and, all these choirs and all this. Mm-hmm. They went to they went to an international competition at Disneyland. Mm-hmm. And we were there one time up against them. And there was a trophy for the best choir of all the choirs that had sung, women's choirs, men's choirs, mm-hmm. concert choir, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. There was a trophy for the best choir. And I remember that they named the 3rd place, and whoever the 3rd place was, they remember the 2nd place, and you could see all these people from the big school. They're all just, oh, we're going to be next. Spanish Lake High School. And they were all just shocked, and they didn't clap. They just couldn't believe that because they won everything forever. Yeah. And
I think that was my senior year in high school.
I think that was your senior year in high
school. Aladdin, there was like this Aladdin room. It was in the second, it wasn't in the main Disneyland. It was in the other cartoon. What was that called?
It's another part that's kind of a private, for groups. Yeah, you were a part of that.
Yeah, that was my senior year. Yeah, we worked our tails off. That was very exciting. Yeah, and all of those, I remember we took first in everything except for my sophomore year, we took second, but it was that bus driver's fault, man. Because he didn't treat us with the value of excellence that we had. He wouldn't let us have our dresses on in the main part of the bus. He wanted us to throw them underneath. And I'm like, excuse me, sir, I'm 15 years old. I spent $600 on this dress. It's not going on the bottom. And he just didn't listen to us. So we ended up getting distracted from the main goal focus of being, elite performers and winning, but we still took second.
I'm just thinking of the really high spots. One of them was going to Hawaii and going out to the USS Missouri, the memorial. Mm-hmm. And when we went out there, I asked the person if we could sing something there, and he said, "No, there's nobody is allowed to sing here." Yeah. And the lady that was leading our trip at the time went up to him and said, "No, this is a national award-winning choir and blah, 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 blah." And he said, "Well, okay." Yeah. So on the memorial, there's a hole right in the middle, and you can look down and see the water, and little bubbles of oil will come up. And it's almost like the spirits of the people that had passed away down there, like they were coming up to join us. It was so moving, and the kids all came out and they started singing, and everybody around stopped talking. They all turned and watched us sing. We were all holding hands in the group. And when we were done, a lot of the singing kids, a lot of the high school kids were crying. I think I was pretty moved too.
Yeah,
and I remember the bus ride after that.
That was my junior year.
What?
That was my junior year.
Okay. And you remember the bus ride after that?
Grave and weep. Yeah, I remember.
And everybody was on the bus ride in the back. It was very quiet. Usually kids are talking and everybody was very quiet and just moved by that moment. It was really
my
cool.
grandfather was on that that ship the year before Pearl Harbor, and he was reassigned to Washington State where he met my grandmother. Had he not been reassigned, I would not be here today. So that was a very powerful moment for me. I didn't know that, but you let mom, because she was Mama Rice, she was always queen, volunteer, weenie queenie, all that. You asked her to come on the trip, and she's like, of course I'm going to Hawaii. And she told me when we were looking at all the plaques of the soldiers that had passed away, and I saw his name, and I was like, why someone else was named him? Well, they had a fire at one of the veterans places where they have all their files of their lives, and they lost a lot of the records of these veterans. So they think that they just accidentally misplaced his file, and they put the plaque there on accident, because it was probably not two people with the same exact name. But yeah, that was a neat experience for me. Thank you for sharing that. You started to say something else, and I got us distracted with that. Do you remember what you were saying? Or I'll move on to another question. We'll come back to it. Okay. That was a neat experience, though. We didn't compete in Hawaii, because I remembered you said, I want to win. And the Hawaiians are extremely good. And
they sing all the time.
Until we can beat them, we're just going to enjoy the trip. And that'll be our culture experience and expanding our mindsets to respecting other people.
I could have taken the best kids singers I've ever had over 38 years or whatever it was. I could have taken them all and picked the best ones, and we still wouldn't have won there. So why go to some place to come in? Yeah. You want to go someplace and you want to work really hard, and the reward is that you win.
Yeah.
The same way with life.
That's right. I love that.
That's the deal about going up and selling hot dogs up at the stadiums, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's music, but it's also life.
Yep.
I think I remember one time we were going up to perform or to work there, and there was more kids than we could use. So the lady who's in charge of everything, kids, said, "Can I take some of your kids and move them to this other stand that doesn't have any kids today?" I said, "Sure." So the kids got there, and who was ever charged of the thing said, "I don't want any teenagers working here. Teenagers are just lazy and blah, 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 blah." And the lady said, "Nope, you need people here to work in the back room and have hot dogs ready for you and all that. So they're going to work here." Okay. And so when he was done, he came and found me, and he said, "Those are the best workers I've ever had here." And I told the kids after that too. I told them that little story too. That you learn how to do all that stuff, and you do it really well.
Yeah.
People appreciate excellence.
Yeah, that was always something that, even though it was work, it was fun, because I got to meet all of the parents, and a lot of the grandparents would come as well. Not all, there wasn't a lot of dads, because a lot of them were working, but it was neat to see and meet dads, because my dad worked nights, so I didn't get a lot of time with him. So it was kind of like, being able to be shaped by other parents. And I'm still friends with many of my friends' parents from being in the music company. They're on my Facebook, like they follow my channel. It's neat. You definitely created a legacy, a family legacy that continues on. So,
well, I just figured there were kids in the music company that had never been out of Pierce County.
Yeah.
And for them to get on a plane and fly to Hawaii.
Yeah.
If I could give a kid that experience like that, wow. Yeah. And I remember I would talk about it, and the parents would say, "Well, how do I do that?" I said, "All you need to go is go up and sell hot dogs."
Yeah.
And you get to work, you get to be with your kids. How much time do you get to spend with your teenager? Not very much. Well, you can go up and work with them and be a part of all that. So it turned out to be a very neat thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And it kept us out of trouble. I mean, like, the neighborhood wasn't the nicest. So it was easy access to illegal activities. So it kept us protected. It kept us making good decisions and motivated to focus on the goal of winning competitions. And
1 year we made $135,000.
What? I did not know that. So let's talk about that.
All of the 32 kids that were in the ensembles got private lessons all year. They got accompanists that were paid for. And they all got to go wherever we were going there, Disneyland or Hawaii. They all got to go. Their parents all got to go.
Wow. It was a business. You turned it into a business.
Unfortunately, I didn't want to, but I guess I was pulled kicking and screaming into it. I had to do it.
And do you remember the lady that we would turn our money into? Was it Buchanan? I was trying to remember. She was the accountant at the school.
She's the ASB lady.
Yeah, she was neat. She was really neat. She always looked forward to seeing us.
Yes.
Here's our money.
Well, she's doing all this work all the time, and for her, the joy was to see the kids and to spend time with the kids. So for you to come up and say, "Oh, here's your money," so it was fun for her too.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so what you kind of alluded to this, so we can pass if you already answered it, but what are some of your most proud moments of your life?
Well, I think for me, running track was a very important part of my life, and the track coach was also the assistant headmaster at the school, who I got to know really well. He was in the Air Force during World War II, stationed in the Pacific.
Oh, wow.
And he has a 180-page memoirs of what it was like and all, and which I didn't know much later, but he was a wonderful man. And I loved running track there. And my senior year, I won the state championship in the 200. And
wow,
as I was running down the track, this little puff of wind came up, and I remember my coach said, "Uh-oh." And I would have set a record for the state of Michigan in the 200. But that little puff of wind, they said, no, it was wind aided. So I didn't get that. But I can close my eyes, and in my mind, I can run that whole race. And I have been able to do that for my whole life.
Wow.
If you're in a place where you just have to sit for a while, or for me, I have to do a lot of physical training. So I'm on a bike, or I'm doing whatever I'm doing. I just close my eyes and run that race. It makes the time go by pretty fast.
I love that. I love that.
People will say they get bored. I say, nope, that's the B word. You can't be bored.
Yeah, there's
you have
so
to
much.
Think about something that's really important to you, a memory or something you're getting ready for, or whatever it is. Close your eyes and you can go anywhere you want to go.
I love that. And visualization is a huge part of exercise and sports psychology. They've done in the last 10 years a lot of white paper, empirically based evidence. I got to be a part of the program at the US Army and Air Force, funded by this government organization. I was a team of 9 that I was the specialist to train the soldiers on how to get their stress levels in control so they could focus on, important things, not just losing weight, but it was like, okay, this is literally life or death. So visualization is super important. And you learned that before it was even a thing.
Yeah.
That's so neat. That's so neat. All right. So as a music director, and you also ran, a business, you set it up as a business and whatnot for most of your career. What are some of your best tips to helping other families balance their career and their personal life?
That's tough. I don't think I did a very good job of it.
Okay.
I really gave my life to my kids and conducting and being with them. I asked my wife a number of times, do you want me to slow down and not do so much? And she said, no, those kids need what you're giving them.
She supported
so
you.
I did. I wish there had been a way I could have spent more time with my family. But no, I just had this calling. It's just like something I had to do. And so I don't think I was very good at that.
Okay.
I don't know what to say about it other than during the summers, before I started working in the summers, we used to take trips and do a lot of things. So I was very involved for a while, but then the more older I got, the more time I dedicated to my business, my kids, my students. And I don't think I did a very good job of balancing that.
Okay, well, I'd like to counter. I'd like
the thing to do is, again, if you have something like that doesn't work, go find somebody who's good at it. And know how to do.
Hire it out.
Business is just doesn't work for me. I'm a musician. I fought it for a long time, but I finally had to realize that something was telling me I had to do that. And I kept running into walls, and finally I just said, this is crazy. I'm going to stop running into that wall. I'm going to run into that wall over there.
Yeah. There are so many memories. You would talk about Norma Jean all the time, and we loved hearing stories about, because you would edify your wife, and that was demonstrating to, at least to me and to my friends, the ladies in the group, how a man should treat his wife, how he should talk about her, outside of that. And that always meant a lot to me. And then we got to have our dresses customized, sized to our bodies, and you were very particular about putting it at Norma Jean's house, because anybody could get whatever false accusations of things as professionals, but you set that up somehow. How did you set that up?
Well, the dresses came, and it was the straps were not fixed,
That's
because
right.
depending on the body,
Yeah,
the strap had to be longer or shorter. So
right.
the kids would all come over to Norma Jean's house,
Yeah.
and there would be 10 of you with 10
Hmm.
of these dresses, and they
Yeah.
were covered with sequins. It's very
Yeah.
hard to sew
Hmm.
that. You can't use a machine. You have to do it all by hand. She did all of that.
Yeah.
And then also we had a spaghetti night
Hmm.
with the girls,
Hmm.
and we watched Miracle, and then we had a spaghetti night with the guys and watched Miracles. By the way, the girls ate more spaghetti than the guys did every time. But yeah, and we watched Miracle, and then we talked about it, and everybody got to spend time with Norma Jean, which was very
Mhm.
cool.
Yeah, she always had fresh fruit out for us, and was
Yeah.
interested in learning about us, and yeah, that was always a neat time.
Yeah.
And
Her
also,
major in college was home
uh-huh.
and family life, and she taught that
Oh.
for a year at Lakes before we got married, and she quit that to raise my kids. But
Aw,
yeah,
is that how y'all
she's
met?
very smart, very smart gal. Her mother was a nurse, so she learned a lot about that stuff. Her
Yeah.
grandmother was a fabulous cook. When she came from Sweden. In
Mhm.
Sweden, she went to a culinary school.
Mm.
And when Norma Jean was a little kid, she used to follow her grandmother around, and so she became very interested in cooking.
Aw.
Yeah, she's interesting gal. She had a lot of experience and a lot of things to teach.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And she was always in the audience for all of our concerts. Like, she was very
Yep.
invested and involved. So
Yep.
I really appreciated that, because that was like, it was another example of how you treated us like family, and
Well,
you convinced her.
you were my kids.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so okay, so I think that although you said you did not do a good job balancing, I think there's definitely a give and take, and she did step up and give you a lot of grace for that. I think you made up for it by talking about her and letting us know how much you appreciated her, you know. What are some of your best tips in collaborating with other music professionals and teachers to be able to travel with students around the world?
Well, again, I think you have to go with what's important in your life, what will make you happy.
Yeah.
And I, the program that we were developing at Spanaway Lake, we were starting to win some contests, and we were starting to really uh, produce some wonderful stuff. There were a lot of kids who transferred from whatever school they were going to Spanaway Lake so they could sing.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Wow.
the choirs got really good, and they were good enough to say, when we travel down to Disneyland, let's be in a contest there. Or I think the first trip we took was up north
Mm-hmm.
into Canada, and we started winning lots of awards for all those things. And I'm thinking, awards are important. It tells you that you worked hard and you did a good job.
Yeah.
It's kind of the thing at the end, you work and work and work and work and work, and then you have a performance.
Yeah.
And if you can have a performance with a lot of other schools that are like you, and be the kind of school that everybody else was going wow about,
Yeah.
then it developed pride in the students. They wanted to work harder, and that again is a life lesson.
Absolutely.
Yeah, if you do something, do it really well,
Mm-hmm.
and the money will come, and the
Yes.
friends and the people who are in your business will gather around you because you're successful.
Yeah. And you said something that really stood out that made me think of the second program where when I worked at the psych hospital where I developed this whole Move Happy thing. It was another colleague. I didn't even work with her directly, but I had done so successfully with the first program that, and then I just happened to have an end of the summer barbecue where there was like different stations and the patients got to celebrate. And I was at the karaoke stand and I sang a Mariah Carey song and everybody heard me sing. Well, she reached out. Well, I also sang for the Christmas. They had like a holiday thing for all the patients. So I sang carols for them. A couple months before that, she stopped me outside and she's like, "Hey," and I had never talked to her before. I didn't know who she was. And she was like, "Hey, so I heard that you sing. I really want to teach the patients how to juggle." And I was thinking maybe you could teach the patients how to sing. There's a lot of benefits to juggling as far as cognition, and many of the patients have have had strokes, the elderly patients, and it's good for cross lateral training and whatnot. And I know there's evidence for music and singing for helping improve their mood. Are you interested? And I didn't have a music degree. I didn't have a background in it other than my professional experience with you and, singing in college and a scholarship. And so I said, okay. So what I noticed and learned from that was like someone 3 floors above me heard about it and then came and asked me, and she stepped up her game. So then I said, okay, what if we add a comedian? There's actually Rick, he used to tour around the US and Canada and as a comedian, and he's one of our he worked on the ward with me. I said we could do a 3 trio and we could call it performing arts therapy. Wow. And that's how it started. And that was the second program. And you helped me with that because I was like, I've never taught singing before. And so I said, "Hey, are you available to help me out? I want to make it successful." And you did. You took some time out and we met at the Starbucks by PLU.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
You remember that? And you were like asking me questions. Okay, you need to know who you're teaching to, who is your audience, what's their background. Maybe some of them don't know anything about music. Maybe some of them are elite musicians and they're going to be bored to death. You need to teach to your audience. And I was like, oh, that's a great question. So I created a little questionnaire to figure out where we were at. And we did have a professional violinist. He was a teenager and he performed all over the world, but unfortunately got into illicit drugs and lost some of the skills of it. But he was, one of them on the extreme excellent end of music. And then we had some people that just enjoyed to listen to music and they knew nothing about it. So it was like, wow, I'm so glad he asked me that question, because otherwise I would have just been making him bored to death and making everybody else excited, or vice versa, overwhelming the newbies in the group. So that was a neat experience.
Just reminds me of something that's sort of related. I remember one time the choir was going to sing someplace, and we got up on all the risers and turned out there were more of us than there were in the audience. And the kid said, "Why should we do this?" And I said, "Because that's what we do. And you do the best job you possibly can do." Yep. After we were done singing, someone came up to the audience and said, "My mother just passed away." And he said, "I was having a great deal of difficulty dealing with that." Yeah. And he said, "Listening to you sing gave me a chance to feel what had happened." Oh. And he said, it really helps me to deal with my mother's death. And I told the kids about that later. Wow. And I said, "Remember, you all said, it's not worth." I said, "If you even have one person in your audience, or one person that in your business or whatever it is, you never know, but you may do the thing that's going to change their life forever." That's right. You don't know. You don't. Like, look what you ended up doing with your life. Yeah. That's beautiful. So I have one student that's on Broadway now. Wow. Let's talk about all these success stories. Yeah. I have a student that became an opera singer. Wow. And I have a student that for a year was in Tops and Blue, the Air Force music company. Those are 3 highlights of my life of kids that performed for a Super Bowl. It performs for a Super Bowl. There you go. And I connected to him for my veteran concert series because he created a legacy of lifetime relationships. Cool? Yeah. So you never know. you never know how those things are going to happen. But if you just
right.
give it all your all, it's just
Yeah.
amazing what will happen.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. Okay. So if someone wants to start their own music company program or insert, their own name at their school, what advice would you give them?
You got to get the principal on your side.
Okay.
You have to believe in music and what it does for kids enough that you can get your principal or whoever's in charge of what's going on to buy into what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's very difficult.
Yeah.
I remember there was in one year we had a period every day that
Mm-hmm.
was supposed to be for blah blah. I don't know whatever it was, and I wanted to spend. I couldn't meet the kids after school, so I wanted to have the music company meet during that time.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of teachers who said, "No, you can't do that. You've got to do whatever, blah 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 blah
Like it
blah."
was math or something.
So I told the kids about it, and I said they're not going to let us meet. And the kids said, "Yes, we are." So the kids all put together their own little program. They did a video. They were going to present it to the faculty of the school.
Wow.
Holy smoke! So here's 100
Holy
teachers
smoke.
out there watching what's going on. So they're ready to go, and bang, something happens. The electricity goes out. So they couldn't do their little show. But they all stood up and they talked. They performed a little, and they talked to all the teachers about how important it was to them
Wow.
and to their lives.
Wow.
And afterwards, the principal put it up for a vote, and I think it was like 95% of the teachers said, "Yeah, go for it, do it." So,
Love it.
yeah, you have to get people behind you.
Yeah.
A little trick I had was every year I would give an honorary music company award,
Mm-hmm.
and I gave one to the superintendent,
Mm-hmm.
and I gave one to the principal, and I gave one to the ASB lady.
Mm-hmm.
I gave one to the parents who were, really instrumental in making all this happen.
Yeah.
To other teachers who participated in the program, elementary and junior high teachers that sent kids up to me.
Yeah.
And it was a way to just thank them and get them involved in what's going on. And just funny little thing about that. The principal and I got to be pretty good friends. And through no fault of my own, the first year I taught, I didn't get credit towards towards retirement. It's a long story, which I won't get into. But when I did retire, I noticed that I was getting enough money for 29 years instead of 28.
Huh.
I wondered how that was going on. So I went to the principal and I said, "What's happening?" Or the superintendent, "What's happening here?" And he just sort of smiled, and I knew what he did. He'd given me that extra year. And it made a
Oh,
lot of difference in the amount of money I'm making for the rest of my life.
wow.
So
Wow.
you never know how those
Your
things are going to
timing.
turn out. You
Yeah,
never
you
know. Just
you definitely earned that one.
do your best.
I love that. That's such a beautiful story. Awesome.
Were you involved when the music company used to go for the Christmas
Yeah,
festival, or
we went.
the Christmas dinner at the district office?
Yeah, we did that.
Huh?
And we got to go to Tom Siegel's house, which was the superintendent of the whole school district. And I got to see his photo. I believe he was in the Navy, I
Yeah.
think.
Oh,
And
he was a big deal in the
he
Navy.
ran, I forget what his title was, what level of officer.
Intelligence, and he was a Commodore, I think, or whatever. But anyway, he was a big deal.
It was, yeah, he was a big deal. And it was nice to meet all his like hootie tootie friends. And I'm in high school and I'm like, ooh, I feel so fancy.
Well, but think about it. That cemented everything I wanted to do. I had the principal behind me. Well, not always. I had principals that were not. That's why I have PTSD, because I had 8 years of a really bad principal. At least I had the superintendent behind me.
Yeah.
And all the parents.
Yeah.
And a lot of the teachers. So that's what you need to do to get started. And then you need to decide what it is you love about music. I love the intellectual classical stuff, but I also loved oldies but goodies, and I love dancing and
Mm-hmm.
all things. So I just created as I went along, and I had a lot of battles. There were a lot of walls I had to get around,
Mm-hmm.
but I just kept at it. I knew what I wanted to do, and dedicated my life to that.
Yeah. And you
That's
did a
what you
lot
have
of
to do.
marketing. Like before I knew what the word marketing was, and I started learning through growing my business, I was like, you were an excellent marketer. You had the poster boards, but also you planted seeds. We'd perform at the elementary schools. So then all the elementary schools wanted to be in the music company. And
Every fourth grade girl in the district wanted to be in the music company
yeah, oh,
and dance.
definitely. Mm-hmm. Everybody knew about it. I mean, to be able to perform for all the superintendents of the entire state of Washington and sing a solo as a 15-year-old to them, like, you can't really put a price on the value of that experience, you know?
Yeah, well, what it did for your self-confidence. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. From a
I
low
mean,
income school district, it made us really believe that it doesn't matter what income we have right now, that this is just a stepping stone for us.
why do you suppose I gave you girls a $500 dress?
Exactly. To increase
How
our
many
value.
times in your life have you worn a $500 dress?
Exactly. Yeah. Mom wasn't too happy about us going to the mall and getting the Estee Lauder makeup because I think money was tight in the house. But I'm glad that you encouraged us to do that, because stage makeup, you have to look presentable, and there's actual reasoning behind it. When you have strong lighting on your face, you don't want to look like you're pale and you're sick. You want to look professional, and you did everything. All the fine details of that were incredible and important to the foundation. Love it. Great tips for future music directors. If you're 1%, if you're listening to the show right now and you're 1% interested in starting a music program at your school, I say start it. Start it right now. Don't wait for the pandemic to be over. You can figure out ways for it. Maybe you're doing Zoom classes right now and you're having to figure out how to get the timing and tempo of your music while also dealing with tech lags. Figure out how you can get the students to safely practice on their own, get them engaged. Maybe you start planting seeds in your neighborhood of businesses, of gigs, to get them set up for success and go from there. So with every success in life, there's always obstacles to overcome. I think you kind of answered it. What are some of your most challenging obstacles as a music director, husband, father, and business owner to overcome that you'd like to share with the audience, if you haven't already shared everything? Any other obstacles you want to share?
Oh, there are a lot of them. I remember when I was in high school, first year, I played football.
Mm-hmm.
Hurt my shoulder really badly.
Mm.
And that in the spring, after football, getting ready for football for the next season, the coach called me into his office and said, I want you to be halfback on the varsity football team. I said, no, I'm going to play soccer.
Mm.
And I bet he spent a half an hour telling me that only fairies played soccer and it wasn't really manly sport and blah, blah, and on and on and on. And I just stuck with it. I said, nope, I'm going to play soccer. Wow. Same thing when I was in the elementary school and the band director said I need to play in the band. Nope, yeah. I'm going to be in choir. Mm-hmm. When it was going to take me 2 more years to graduate from the University of Michigan, just playing piano, I said, nope, I'm going to graduate now. So I changed my major and graduated on time with the University of Washington. Mm-hmm. I went and do an audition, and the director there said, boy, I said, I think you're a great director, but your junior, senior grade point average is not above a 3-point. Mm. So he said, you need to go back to school and you need to get an A in every one of your classes in order to come to the University of Washington for graduate school. So I had a cousin who was a very good student, and he said what he did was every year when he got a new teacher, went up to the teacher and said, I want to get an A in your class. Mm-hmm. And I want you to give me A, but I want you to tell me what I can do to make sure that I get an A. And they did. Mm-hmm. So I went back to every one of my teachers and I told them, I want to go to the graduate school at the University of Washington. Wow. I need an A in your class to do it. I don't want you to give me an A, but I want you to tell me what I need to do that. I love that. And I did. I got an A in every one of my classes, even piano, if you can imagine that.
Negotiation tactics.
But it was still an A. So then there is another wall that I got around. I got to go to the University of Washington and graduate with a master's degree in choral conducting, and also my teacher's certificate at the same time. And then the plum came. I got to teach at Lakes High School, which was at the time was just wow. What a fabulous choir that was. We sang the Bach Singet dem Herrn ein neues Lied. It was a 15-minute double choir piece in German, and we performed. And one of the judges, who was a PLU director at the time, came up to me and said, "Wow," he said, "I know a lot of college groups that haven't sung it that well."
Wow.
That was pretty cool.
That is neat. You remember the name of the professor?
Sconas, Marie Sconas.
Sconas, okay. Because I had Nance my first year, Dr. Nance, and then I had Professor Lehman. She was in process of getting her PhD. She was the one that jumped in glee after I told her I was going to pray on my decision to join the top choir because I didn't want to overwhelm myself. And she said, "I've been waiting for you to join. Your high school choir teacher wrote me a letter your freshman year, and I have been waiting. I remembered your name." And I was like, oh my goodness, because I wasn't in any of the music classes because I was a PE major, but she remembered my name because of you and your 3-letter.
There's just a little example of somebody that I gave a little push to.
That's right. Yeah.
And look how they ended up. There's so many kids who I would talk to about what they wanted to do, and they were reluctant to do it. And I said, "Oh no, you need to, what is it? If you get a chance to sit alone or dance, dance."
Yep.
I said, "No." I said, "You go for it. You don't learn from things when, at the top of the mountain. You learn things in the valleys."
That's right.
And I know you were not convinced that you were going to be good enough to do all that stuff, and I knew you could. I knew you could.
Yeah. I never visualized myself as a choir teacher because I had my first performance at 5 years old in front of 300 people. And then the next week or 2 weeks later, it was in front of thousands still as a 5-year-old. So I wanted to, if I was going to do it, I was going to perform. I wasn't going to teach other people. So I wanted to accelerate my skills in dance. So that was why I chose PE, but then they didn't have I didn't do my research. Okay. And they did not have a dance program at all at PLU, but it taught me how to do curriculum design and all of those steps that helped me now create therapies for mental health, including the performing arts music program. So, and actually fun story.
And look how you turned out.
Yeah. Right. The Professor Lehman, in grad school, I went and visited the music program because I wanted to get back into singing. I hadn't been doing it. And I knew I was in a jazz group that performed in restaurants. And I was like, I'm not going to be able to perform with them. I'm a few hours away. So I went and met with the head of the music department there before the school year started. And then he said, "Okay, audition dates are this date." And I totally bombed my audition. Like I honestly, I was like, I'm reading these notes. You wanted me to sight read. I actually know that I didn't do that correctly. I apologize. I'm embarrassed, but I sang a song that I sang in high school for our contest. And they offered me at the end of my audition the second highest group or whatever. And I was like, "Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time." But I was like, there's no way I'm going to be in the second top group when I've already done all of these things. I get an email from the top music director of Oregon State University saying, "I know Professor Lehman. She and I were in school together. And I know if you were in the Choir of the West program with her, then you are an excellent musician and you just maybe need a little warm up. I'd love to take you on tour with our choir to China." And I ended up turning it down, but it was like, I got that email and I knew that, those stages, those foundational experiences that started with you, Mr. Crouse, you did it.
Cool.
We can take credit for the work that we put in, but you definitely set the foundation of excellence. So we've got, now let's think bigger. Let's think countrywide. We do have top leaders that listen to my show, although I am working on getting the downloads numbers increasing. The type and kinds of people that are listening to the show are presidential level. I know that. So if you could speak to the President of the United States regarding music and the arts right now, what advice would you give him to help keep music at the forefront of educational programs, regardless of income levels in
Or
neighborhoods.
her.
Him or her. That's right.
Or her. Him or her.
That's right.
Well, anytime you do anything like that, it starts with your preparation. And you have to have knowledge. You have to be convinced, 100% convinced that you're right.
Yeah.
You're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
You have to be excited about what you're doing. And you have to be able to sell yourself.
Yeah.
Remember when I was in graduate school, I was taking my oral exams. And I remember that one of the things that one of the subjects I had taught were the men's choral work of Schubert. And I remember I got started talking about it, and the guy who was the head of the panel, there were 3 teachers there that were listening to adjudicating me. And one of them said, okay, that's enough. I think we want to move on to another subject. I said, no, wait a minute. And I started telling them about all the neat things that I had discovered about Schubert's works for men's chorus. And I was really excited that I had found all these things. And Schubert, besides writing beautiful music, was a pretty smart guy. The way he put together his, not only the melodies, but the choral things underneath them, the way that he planned how he was going to do his modulations through the whole work, for me, was just fascinating. I was excited about it.
Yeah.
So I just said, well, just wait a minute, I want to tell you the rest of this. And afterwards, they passed me, but afterwards, all 3 of them came up individually, and they said the neatest things about listening to you was what you said about Schubert. And they said all three of them were PhDs. They all said they learned some things that they never knew before.
Oh.
So it's preparation, it's excitement, it's knowledge,
Yeah.
it's experience. It's all those things come into play. And the worst thing you can do is to stand in front of somebody and not know or not believe what you're doing, and not have enough knowledge to be able to present yourself. So you have to really work hard to have all that background, all that stuff available for you. I remember that I took Spanish in high school. I spent a month in Chile with my Spanish teacher. And I remember when I got to Spanaway Lake, and the guy was going to give me a job, and he said, well, there are only 3 choral organizations right now. We have 2 open openings. I said, okay. He said, can you teach Spanish? And I said, sure, I'd love to teach Spanish. I think it'd be a lot of fun. And then he said, can you teach American literature? And I had it at my school. I had a really good English teacher who was really excited about American literature. And I learned a lot about it. And I said, yes, I would love to teach American literature. I was excited about as excited about those 2 things as I was about having choirs.
Wow. And
I really loved the times when I got to teach those classes. Eventually, we started adding choirs, so I had to drop the other 2. I had to stop teaching the other 2. But it's just background. How do you know? How would you know? When I was in high school, if you had given me 100 possibilities for things that I could have done with my life, music would have been, or teaching would have been 101. There's no way I'd ever want to be a teacher. And here I am. You never know.
You never.
And the Spanish that I'd taken, when am I ever going to use that? I don't know. Well, there's a gardener that comes around here a couple of times a year and helps me with what's going on outside, and he's in Mexico, and I can speak to him.
Yeah.
There are a group of 3 ladies that come and clean our house every 2 weeks, and they're all Mexican, and I can speak with all of them, and I have a lot of fun with them.
Yeah, and they probably love that they can talk to you.
And who would have ever known when I was taking Spanish in high school that I would ever use it anywhere? And I did. When I was at teaching choir at Lakes, I had a lot of kids that spoke Spanish, and I could speak with them. My parents, when they retired to Spain. I got to go visit them and spend time talking to people who were from Spain, Spanish people. Who'd have known?
Yeah.
Who'd have known that? When I was taking American Lit in high school, who'd have known that I'd ever end up teaching it somewhere? And it turned out to be one of the great joys of my life. You never know.
Aww.
So
And I
when you get a
remember,
chance to sing or dance,
yeah,
dance.
do it. Yeah. I
Yeah,
remember just kind of the summation of what you just said. You taught us through your experiences how to respect cultures of all backgrounds. And on our way to Hawaii, you, a couple months before our trip, bought all of us a book on Hawaiian culture so that we would be prepared for when, I mean, the book was like this big. If you're watching, it's like 3 inches big. So it was not a small book, but you at least presented an opportunity for us to learn about another culture and respect it. Cause we did have, I don't know if we had Hawaiians that were in my direct connections at school, but I remember a lot of Samoans, a lot from
Nice.
Vietnam,
Yes.
highly African American or people of color, and I think we're predominantly Caucasian, but we wanted to learn and appreciate cultures because you created a space for us to be successful first place winners, regardless of what our background was or where our families came from, which was really neat.
Interesting little story about that. When we were one year when we were in Hawaii, we sang for the bus driver, and after it was over, he was just literally in tears.
Aww.
Said that was so beautiful and talked about. So we got to a Honaunau, which is a holy place, and there was a guide there who was a Hawaiian and was very much into that culture, and we sang a song for him. And when we were done, he turned his back to us for about a minute. Nobody said anything. He didn't say anything. He came back and there were tears rolling down his face, and he thanked us for sharing. It was just a wonderful thing. Well, then we got on a catamaran, professional catamaran, went up the coast and went swimming in a place, and 80 dolphins came into the bay and swam with the kids. And when they got back and they got on the bus, they told the bus driver about it, and he just smiled and he said, "That was your reward for sharing your music with me and with the person that was the guide at the Honaunau." And it was like he said, it was like the gods were rewarding you for what you did, and whoever you think God is, that was a reward we got for doing something for someone else. And wow, who'd have known?
Yeah, that's so neat.
What a impression it made on someone else's life.
I love that. So I did ask my audience earlier today for any questions that they would like to ask you, and we actually had Bill Dolan, who is the owner and founder of Spirit Media. He's had an opportunity to work with former President Clinton, Gwen Stefani, Maroon 5, Tori Kelly, all of these people, and he's like a super fan of me, and he loves you because of all the stories that I tell online. So his question was, he wants to know, what advice do you have for all teachers out there who are facing unmotivated kids, constant interruptions, and burnout right now with I think the pandemic going on?
It's tough. My wife was a much better teacher than I was. She tells the little story of one time there was a sophomore English class. The teacher got sick or whatever happened, so they brought a substitute in. After a week, the substitute quit. Just couldn't take the kids. They had hired somebody else. He quit. They hired somebody else, and the kids all went down to the principal's office and said, "We want a good teacher. We're tired of all these people, blah, 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 blah." So here's Norma Jean. And he says to Norma Jean, "Well, I'm going to give you this sophomore English class." She was substituting at the time. She said, "Okay." So she went in and did all the little magic things that she knew how to do. First, she found the biggest kid and got him on her side. So if anybody mouthed off, this guy would stand up and say, "Hey, shut up and sit down." She got a kid on her side. She had to teach a Shakespeare play, and the kid says, "Shakespeare." So what she gave the most important part in the Shakespeare play to the guy who was the biggest screw up in the class. Turned out he had a very good voice, and he had a really talent for acting that he never knew about. And anyway, she turned that whole group around. And at the end of the year, they all told her, they said, "You're the best teacher we've ever had."
Oh,
She was really good because she could go in a class that didn't want to be there
yeah,
and make them be really good. I
yeah.
couldn't do that. I could take a class where everybody wanted to be there
Mm-hmm.
and I could make them good.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that if I was ever in a situation where kids didn't want to be there,
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't have I didn't have the skills to make it happen.
Mm,
So I just found out as I went along in life that there are things that I do very well and there are things that I don't do very well.
yeah,
And like playing the piano, I don't play the piano very well, so I didn't.
yeah,
Uh, and I got along fine. There were
yeah.
teachers in college that told me I couldn't teach choir if I didn't know how to play the piano. Well, no, that's not
Prove
true.
them wrong.
Yeah,
Time and time again.
that's another one of those. Hold on here.
Yeah, I love that.
Sorry, I have to turn that off.
That's okay. It's real
Anyway,
life.
does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also it's nice to hear that you can still take first for many decades and not be an expert with classes that aren't motivated and not know certain things that other people would tell you in the professional industry that you're in, that you have to have these skills.
Yeah.
I think
You
that's
have to,
hear that.
again, it's the thing that you have to develop skills.
Yeah.
You have to have the knowledge. You have to be excited about what you're doing. You
Yeah.
know, all the things that apply to everything that would be a business or with what I was successful in,
Yeah.
you have to be able to be in there. If I was a really good Spanish teacher, I would have told the kids, you know, and I did. I told them the experience I had had, and
Mhm.
I told them again, whoever knew that speaking Spanish would ever get me anywhere. Well,
Yeah.
my whole life it's been an important part of what I've done, and I
Yeah.
tried to share that excitement with the kids who were unmotivated,
Yeah.
and I was mildly successful, but not like Norma Jean. You
Yeah.
have to realize where you're. Everybody is really good at something that I am not good at all.
Yeah.
And I am good at something that everybody else doesn't have.
Yeah.
You know, it's just the way it is. So you pick whatever it is you're good at, whether it is
Yeah.
being with people or
Yeah.
finance or I don't know, whatever it organizing things, teaching,
Yeah.
whatever it is, go for it.
Yeah.
Be excited about it, and you'll never work a day in your life.
That's right. I remember you just brought a memory to my mind. There was a male student because we were always trying to get more guys to join the choir because it was a little bit of a challenge to get guys to believe that it wasn't, you know, stupid or whatever their thoughts were. And this one guy, we recruited him in because you were like, ladies, find the guys. And he joined in, and he didn't have like a lot of a music background, but he was a really good artist. And we were designing, you were in the process of, I think Katie Nelson Penland and Katie Scoville were doing the t-shirt design, or it might've been the year after they graduated. Whoever was leading us at the time
You're
was like,
making
all
the
right,
logo.
yeah, we were trying to design this t-shirt or sweatshirt for our trip for one of our 4 outfits that we had for our set change and whatnot. And he's like, well, I can draw. And he had these cartoons. So we like presented it to you. Like he had this picture of you cartoon. And you were like, let's do it. Let's put that on the design. Let's do it. And so that was,
Well, we had this joke about this. We had a joke about the stink eye, and I had a very good stink eye. So they took a picture of it and put it on the TV. I put it on their TV.
Right. That's right.
Okay. That was fun. Everybody had a good joke about it. That's okay. I don't care if it's
Hey,
makes sense.
everybody
They all
had
had
their
a good
part.
time doing it.
Yeah, you made sure that everyone felt welcomed in the group and that everybody could add some value to make us even better. So that question from Bill Dolan then sparked a private message from someone that was actually a guest on my first year of the podcast. And he actually is, I think he's retired now, but he was the head of Disney hotels. So he actually sent me a PDF of his response to the question from Bill Dolan. So he definitely is going to be listening to the show. I want to give a shout out to Lee Cockrell, who's a great gentleman, but he sent me this PDF called School Systems. He doesn't have a question, but school systems. Oh, it's actually from him. He made it. So I'll send that over to you after the show if you're interested. So that's pretty cool. And then I'm trying to see if there's any other questions. I definitely want people to have the opportunity to ask you while we've got you on the show. So I'm just going to do a quick scan through and check my Facebook real quick. My mom, of course, she commented. She loves you.
Mama
Rice. Everybody's excited. I said, I need y'all to pay attention when I release this episode. I need y'all to share this with many people that are listening, because there's a lot of people that we don't know if they're having a great day, if they're going through a tough season. Maybe they lost somebody recently. Maybe they've got a family member that's sick right now in the hospital, and all the unknowns and things like that. So, or maybe, maybe they're going through cancer treatment. I know Matt is, the previous Super Bowl performer. They've got that going on with their family. Everybody's got different levels of stress going on right now. Any last words of advice, words of encouragement you'd like to share with those that are listening to the show or watching the show on YouTube?
Yeah, I think stick-to-itivity is an important word.
Yeah.
I had a tumor grow in my spine that got so I was paralyzed from the waist down.
Yeah.
And I went into had the surgery, and afterward I was in the hospital recovering for a month.
Yeah.
I remember the first time they had me in a room, they gave me a cane and they said, okay, you're going to stand up. And I said, I'm going to do what? I said, you're going to stand up. Okay. And at that point, I could have, as this, before I'd asked the surgeon, what's the prognosis? And he said, you could die. Something bad could happen. You could die. He said, you could do like a lot of people do, which is to just go home and lay down on the couch and die. Or you can walk. He said, it's up to you.
Wow. Pressure's on.
Cool. Well, you know what? I think I'd rather walk.
Yeah.
So I forced myself to do that first time to stand up. And I remember when I got up, I looked down at the floor. It looked like I was looking at the Grand Canyon, literally. But I just kept saying, you know what? I want to walk. So then they say, okay, now you're going to take a step. No, you're crazy. No, you're going to take a step. And then you're going to walk to that wall. And then you're going to turn around and you're going to walk back. I just had a shoulder replacement. And I said, how do I recover? And he said, you just got to keep moving. So now I can do this.
That's awesome.
For the first time in 63 years.
Wow.
From the shoulder thing, but that's what he said. He said, it's up to you. You need to work hard at it, but as hard as you want to work.
Yeah.
He said, you can do these exercises 3 times a day would be wonderful. Once a day would be great. Once every 2 days is acceptable. But he said, it's just how you want to get that shoulder back to the point where you can do everything that your other shoulder can do. And I'm pretty close.
Yeah.
And I'm still working at it. So yeah, the thing is stick to it. Yeah. Whatever it is that's going on, you've got to believe in it, even though people that will be principals. I remember one time there was a vice principal that told me, he said, if you were my football coach, he said, I'd fire you. Okay, well, then I knew I was doing a good job and I just had to keep going so I would get more kids attracted to the program. That was the only way I was going to get better. I knew how to do all that stuff.
Yeah.
And he was wrong. The principal that said you can't take your sophomore kids along to the state contest. No, he was wrong. And I figured out a way to make it happen.
Yeah.
So many times there are things that are thrown in your way.
Yeah.
You have to figure out a way to get around that wall.
Yeah.
That's my message to everybody.
I think that's beautiful. And you reminded me, my boss, who I love, my boss at the psych hospital, Dad died my first week on the job, and I was grieving, I was healing, and I felt so loved and appreciated from all the patients and the staff. Like, they were checking in on me. They were telling me, hey, we're praying for you. Our dad died too, things like that. And I wanted to make it better there. And their fitness program was not good. And I was like, I want to create something. It'll get my mind in a positive space. I want to do this for the patients because I'll work on it outside of my work hours and I won't be thinking about dad's death and crying and stuff. And she gave me every excuse in the book. She's like, Erin, we don't have money. I was like, I can make it without any equipment. No problem. Okay. Well, the patients don't like fitness. I was like, yeah, I've seen the program. They do the same yoga DVD and walking DVD every day. They're bored to death. I would be bored too. She's like, okay. Well, it has to be empirically based. It has to be something with white papers backed. And I was like, I went to grad school. I learned how to do research design and all of these programs. And I learned that you have to have a team of experts approve of it before you facilitate and disseminate it to your audience. So let me send an email out to all the psychologists, psychiatrists, rec therapists, music therapists, and get their feedback before I give it to the pro. So she finally agreed. And I'm so glad she did, because she told me, people started telling me, you should apply to be a psych associate. You get paid more. You'll get paid for your master's degree that you have instead of, at a bachelor's level for the entry level job I had. And I was like, oh, okay. So now I knew to apply for psych associate. And I told her, I said, I need more money. Like, I just got divorced. Like, money's tight right now. And she was like, well, she said it nicely with encouragement, but she said, Erin, I know how they operate here. I've worked here for 30 years and no one in the history of my 30 years working here has ever been interviewed without a state license in therapy. I was not only one of 17 interviewed, I was the one that earned that promotion because a lot of the belief that I had in, I'm not going to listen to you telling me I can't do something. I'm going to add more value in this hospital than they can ignore.
You found a way around the wall.
I found a way around the wall. So I'm very grateful for you teaching all 3 years I got to work with you. Pretty much every single day except for July. That was for your family.
3 years I got to work with you, honey.
And you actually got to sing last year, part of my concert series that started. I was in an Airbnb homelessness, and my last concert in December, I had a presidential candidate of the United States of America in attendance, and you were a part of that. So I'm so grateful for your time today. This has been one of my most fun interviews ever. And
what a wonderful way to spend an hour and a half.
Yeah.
I enjoyed every minute of it, Erin.
Yay. Awesome. Well, thank you so much again.
Thank you.